When upgrading to a bigger wheel and tire combo on your Ford Bronco, there's a couple things you should think about grabbing before doing so. One of those things being the RTR spare tire carrier. Now the main purpose of this product is so we can actually put a bigger wheel and tire on our Bronco. The factory spare tire carrier is very limiting, so we won't be able to put on our spare when we upgrade the wheel and tire combo on our Ford Bronco. So that's why we got the RTR spare tire carrier. And with this spare tire carrier, there's more than just the fact that we can put a bigger wheel and tire on it. Now with this, we're gonna be able to put on the RTR accessories. They have a jack point for this, they have a molle panel, and then that molle panel allows you to have a ton of other accessories as well too. There's going to be no modifications required when installing this onto your Ford Bronco, so it should be a very easy install. So let's go ahead, take off our factory spare tire carrier and get this one installed. First thing I'm going to do is take off the factory spare wheel. We're now going to take off the 8 bolts that hold on the factory spare tire carrier, but before doing so, grab a workbench or something that you can set the tire carrier on, so that way you're not holding it the entire time. Now we're going to remove the 2 plastic hardware here. That way we can get this insulation foam out. Pull that out of the way. Now we're going to remove the 4 bolts that hold on our brake light. Now remove the 2 screws that are on the front of the tire carrier. Pop out the clip for the wiring harness here. Once you do that, you can kind of pull this bracket out and then set it aside. Once you have that metal bracket out of the way, you can pull out the entire camber assembly. Now, I'm gonna point this out now. Mine was super stuck in here. I've seen other people pull these out with absolutely no problems, so I'm hoping that is the case for you. But like I said, mine was pretty stuck, so just be careful because you might run into that same issue. Now we can pull this out. And disconnect the camera wiring harness and just set everything to the side. We're now going to separate our factory brake lights. We're just going to take out all these T25s. Once you have that separated, disconnect the wiring harness going to the brake light, unclip it from everything, and set it off to the side. Now there's going to be a bracket that holds in this light. We're going to take out the hardware. Once that's out, your brake light is now free, and then hold on to this because we're going to reuse it on the RTR kit. Next, you'll want to open up the tailgate to pop out this inner panel here. You have a couple Phillips head clips and then some 10 mils to take care of. Once you have all the hardware removed, you can remove the panel. At this point, we're going to start putting on our RTR hinges. Now, before doing so, grab a stool and either some cardboard or block wood, whatever the case may be. Just get the tailgate to be able to sit here on its own, so that way it's not moving too much as we're removing hinge bolts. We're going to start with the top first. After removing the inner hinge bolts, you're going to want to remove the outer hinge bolts. And then the hinge will come off the tailgate. Grab your RTR spare tire bracket and put it on the vehicle here. And then inside the kit is going to be some ARP hardware and a thick washer. Make sure to put that on for our inner hardware. We're not going to tighten these down all the way. We're just going to snug them up here in a little bit. And then towards the end, we will adjust the tailgate if we need to, and then tighten these bolts. Now we're going to install our M8 grade hardware to the outer part of the tailgate hinge. And we're going to tighten this down. Not going to go all the way. We're going to tighten down all the way in the end. Once you complete the process for the top hinge, repeat the exact same one on the bottom. At this point, we're going to close the tailgate carefully to make sure that everything's lined up. We have a nice even gap on this side, so everything looks to be pretty good. I'm going to go back over and tighten down all these hinges. Before we move any further, we're going to take off these pieces here because they will get in the way of our spare tire carrier. Inside the bag is going to be these clips here. You're just going to put those into that spot we just took the other piece out. So that way our spare tire doesn't end up hitting anything. And now we're ready for the next step. We're now going to install our alignment plate here using the factory bolts that we took out of our factory hinges earlier. Just get everything lined up. Now, something I want to point out here, if this alignment bracket is not lining up with the holes, then what you're going to want to do is just kind of shift everything around a little bit as far as these hinges go. And then once everything lines up, we'll get all of these bolts in. Everything's threading in real nice. So I'm going to say that's pretty good on alignment wise. Now what we'll do is we'll go back and tighten all these outer hinge bolts, and then that way our tailgate is perfectly aligned. Once you know your tailgate is aligned, you can take off the alignment bracket. I would suggest to keep this for any future RTR products. Now we're going to take some more of the hardware and thread them into these top two holes here. Now we're not going to put these all the way in. We're actually going to want to leave them hang a little bit. So about there is good. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other one. Take your spare tire carrier and hang it on those two bolts that you just put in. Now we're going to loosely install the hardware that's provided in the kit around the tire carrier. Again, you're just loosely installing this, you're not cranking them down yet. Now we're going to install our 5mm Allen bolts into the RTR hinges. Once they're all in, go ahead and tighten all these guys down. Now we're going to grab our rear view camera harness and fish it through the side of the carrier. There's a square hole that you'll see. And you're going to want to fish it through the middle hole here. Now that we have that there, inside the kit is going to be two different wiring harnesses. Now these are just going to be extension wiring harnesses for the camera. Now depending on your Bronco, you're only going to need one of these. So if your Bronco has a plug style that's more like this, then you're gonna use this harness. If you have a plug style that looks like this, then you're gonna use this harness. So for example, on our Bronco, this is the one that matches up. So the other one that comes in the kit can be thrown to the side. We will not need that. I'm just gonna plug this guy in. And now our harness is extended and we'll be able to reach our camera. We're gonna grab our next piece of the kit here, take our wiring harness and slide it through the center. Bring it out. And then we're gonna mount this to the spare tire carrier. Now, one of the cool things about this kit is that we can adjust this. So if this right now, the way that we're gonna set it up is for a 35-inch tire. So that's literally just gonna go right here. But if we have bigger tires, bigger wheels, whatever the case may be, we can move this up and then it'll be able to accommodate a bigger wheel and tire combo. Like I said, the holes that we're going with now are for a 35-inch. Next thing you want to grab is the carrier hub and slide that rear camera harness through it. And then inside the kit's going to be like this L-shaped bracket with some nuts on it. And we're going to put that inside the carrier hub, exactly like how I'm doing it. Just make sure you're moving the wire out of the way because you don't want this pinching the wire at all. And then from there, we're going to slide it right on in. So if you stick a screwdriver through the bottom hole, you can actually line it up then to make it a lot easier to get this top bolt in. And then once you have that top bolt started, you can pull your screwdriver out and put the bottom bolt in. And then once you have both in and started, you can tighten them up. At this point, grab the factory camera and take out the T20 bolt that holds it in. Set that off to the side. Pop out the camera. Make sure you're very careful with it. Then you're gonna take your factory camera and you're going to stick it into the RTR bracket. With the kit as well will be this bracket and then some hardware to be able to mount that so the camera doesn't fall out. Tighten this hardware into place. Don't go too crazy tight because we don't want to damage the camera at all. Just want it to be able to be held in place. After you get everything installed, connect the wiring harness to the camera and slide it into place. And then we're going to grab some hardware to mount it. Grab your factory brake light, turn it over, and there's going to be this middle post here. Snip that middle post off, and then with the RTR cover, slide it on the back side of the brake light. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab the RTR bracket, put it on the back side of the cover after it's connected to the light, then put in your hardware, and you'll be all set. It's now time to install the brake light bracket, but before doing so, I just want to point something out. Earlier I talked about how this piece is adjustable so you can move it around depending on your wheel and tire size. Well, this brake light bracket is also the exact same way. So for us, we're just going to mount it in these holes here, just kind of lining everything up with these bolts. But if we end up going to a bigger wheel and tire combo, which I'm sure we will, then we can actually mount it in a different spot. That way it's off to the side a little bit. We can still bring this piece up higher and then we'll still be able to see our brake light. But again, I'm just putting them in this spot right now because we have 35s on it and this will clear the 35s. It's now time to put the brake light onto the bracket here. Another thing I want to point out though is the fact that we have all this adjustability. So we can slide in our bolt here, and then depending on how big your wheel or tire is, you can move the brake light up or down. I'm gonna kind of set this up to where the bracket's almost in the middle of everything, and then once we get the wheel on, we'll adjust from there. Once you have the brake light mounted, we can reconnect the wiring harness to it. And then RTR provides a cable tie to be able to get this harness up and against the bracket. At this point, we're almost wrapped up with the install. Go over the tailgate, make sure everything is aligned correctly, make sure it closes and opens properly like it did before, and then once everything is good and in place, go back over everything and just tighten everything down. And then don't forget, we still have to tighten our hinge bolts and put on that cover. One of the last steps is obviously putting your wheel on and then using the lug nuts that RTR provides to secure the wheel. Well, we're officially all wrapped up with the install. We got our wheel back on our spare tire carrier. I gotta say, the RTR spare tire carrier is absolutely awesome. The install was super easy. There's a ton of adjustability in this thing, so you can almost put any wheel and tire combo on the back of your Bronco. And the best part about it is this tire carrier is going to brace the tailgate, so we never have to worry about putting something too heavy on here that the tailgate can't handle. If you want to pick up this spare tire carrier, I'll have a link down below in the description, but it is time to drop a gear and disappear, and we'll catch you on the next one.